there's some things that I was thinking about last night, and they have to do with genealogy research. The main problem area that I've seen in trying to locate family members, uh, especially prior to the 1850 census, is of course that it was not until 1850 that uh, the census takers started to record all the names of everybody in the household. Uh, Before then, it was just the household. It was just the head of the household, and everybody in the house was grouped by, age, sex, and everything. Uh, in 1840, the one person who I've been looking for shows up in the 1840 census as, I'm assuming she was the wife of Thomas Woodward Macon. They lived somewhere in Pickens County, Alabama. It doesn't say where. Uh, Apparently, they had a son. I can't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head how old he was. I believe no, he was up to 5 years old. So he was born anywhere from 1835 to 1840. Mm. The problem with doing research in Pickens County, Alabama, is that they had two courthouse fires. One in 1865 when the Union soldiers came in and just burned it down because they could, and 1876 or 77. Supposedly an ex-slave named Henry Wells set fire to the courthouse. And by the way, there's a legend that he hid in the courthouse and got struck by a lightning bolt, and his face was, or an image of his face was burned into the window. Uh, and then Thomas Woodward Macon was, I'm going to assume he was a farmer because it shows he had 4 or 5 slaves when he was living in Pickens. Uh, I don't know how long he was living there, but apparently he had a parent or somebody living in Noxubee County, Mississippi, because there is or was a guy named Hartwell Macon who was living in Noxubee, Mississippi, about 1840. And I've been told that there is a deed of some sort where T.W. Macon was a witness to, I guess, the land transaction involving Hartwell Macon. I got an email from somebody not too long ago on Ancestry who is a descendant of Hartwell Macon, and it seems that, to make a long story short, Thomas Woodward Macon's dad was John Macon, and his mother was Charlotte Woodward. They were both from Fairfield, South Carolina. I think it was October 1803, there was a promise of marriage between John Macon and Charlotte Woodward. And it's my guess that this marriage was carried out. We don't know when John Macon died, so he could possibly have been Thomas's father. John Macon was a child of Hartwell Macon, if I'm not mistaken. So then at some point, Thomas Macon was enrolled at Transylvania University in Kentucky. He was a medical student who did not finish his degree. This was in 1829, 1830. So I don't know if he moved to Mississippi with his dad or whatever, but he wound up living in Pickens County, Alabama by the 1840 census. in 1842, sometime in 1842, his son Thomas Hill Macon was born. This is the person who I'm descended from. I'd always kind of wondered how he got the middle name Hill, and I've never been able to find anything concrete, but I've seen where apparently either the Macons or the Woodwards were they had some connection to a family of Hills who lived in South Carolina. The names right now, the name Jemima Hill is coming up in my mind. So there had to have been some kind of connection in order for him to get that name. It's the same way with his dad. You know, his dad's middle name was Woodward. There is a Woodward in the family somewhere, and I believe this to be his mother. I believe his mother to be Charlotte Woodward. So that's how he got the middle name Woodward. Which, by the way, through Thomas's son, through Thomas Woodward's son, William, was passed down for quite a while through the family. It was his son William, by the way. But anyway, Thomas Woodward Macon had at least 2 kids born in Pickens County. My great-great-great-grandfather was born in 1842, and his brother William Woodward was born in 1845. They both, the family moved to Mobile, and sometime before December 1851. That's when Thomas Woodward Macon married Margaret Ann Moore, December 25th, 1851. They had a bunch of kids together, and when 1860 rolled around, there was Thomas and Margaret were living in Mobile. Their sons, Thomas Hill Macon, William Woodward Macon, and Marcus Macon, were living there, and they also had some daughters, Carrie Macon and Miriam Macon. And there is a girl who shows up on there as Martha E. Macon. I've always assumed she was a daughter of Thomas Woodward Macon from his first marriage, but I could be wrong, because there are no relationships given until 1880, the 1880 census. Thomas Hill Macon wound up going to enlist in the Confederate Army in 1861. There's an interesting story behind that, by the way, because at the time he was seeing a young girl. I think she would have been about 14, and he was about 18 years old, or about 19. And she told him that she would wait on him until after he got back from the war, and they would get married. Well, he was at Gettysburg, and he lost his left arm during Pickett's charge. So then he wound up getting sent to a prison hospital in New York somewhere, and after the war he came home, and for some reason, I guess his girlfriend or fiance did not like the idea of marrying a one-armed man, so she decided not to marry him. But her dad, Lewis Gale, went to talk to her and got her to go see him. Well, she changed her mind again, and so they got married November 21st, 1865. The woman he married was by the way, Cecilia Rose Gale, or Cecilia Ursula Rose Gale. That was her full name. Her mother, Sophie Artemis Beausarge, was from Ballabatury. She was born. Her mother was born around 1829, and Sophie died around 1852. Cecilia was born August 20th, 1847 in Ballabatury. And she died in mid-October 1935. Uh, and Thomas Hill Macon died April 28th, 1886, from the old word for it was phthisis, which is what we call tuberculosis today. Uh, the big mystery I've had, there's two big mysteries I've been trying to answer in doing this research, and that is, who was Thomas Woodward Macon's first wife, and where is Thomas Woodward Macon buried? Uh, there are two cemeteries in Mobile, or there were two big cemeteries in Mobile around the time he would have died, which, by the way, the 1900 census shows Margaret Macon as a widow, and she said that she had been married for 13 years. That would put his time of death probably around 1865, because they were married December 25th in 1851. So 13 years from that would be the end of 1864. So more than likely he died during 1865. The two big cemeteries in Mobile at that time were Church Street Graveyard and Magnolia Cemetery. Unfortunately, there are no records that I've been able to come across that would answer that question. There is no death record available from Mobile, which would be the primary source that I would have used. But there is at Magnolia Cemetery a big plot, burial-wise, that is used by the Macon family. There's 13 burials there, and I've accounted for all of them except for one. So that's where Thomas Hill Macon and his wife Cecilia are buried at, by the way. And the other mystery, of course, is who was Thomas Woodward Macon's first wife. The problem is I don't know if they got married in South Carolina. I don't know if they got married in Alabama or even Mississippi. So there's really no way. The only clue I have to her identity is her age, and that's not very much. There's, I guess, because of the Civil War, a lot of records got destroyed. Ancestry does not show any marriage records for Thomas Macon, except for his marriage to Margaret Moore. Other than that, I'm still tracking down the descendants of Thomas Hill Macon and Cecilia Gale. They had 13 kids, 5 of whom lived to be old enough to have children of their own. It's an interesting family because my great-great-grandmother Emily Macon married Johnny Cooper, a guy named Johnny Cooper, and they had several kids, and I know that some of their descendants are still living around here today. I've just got to contact them. Johnny Cooper died before around the early 1900s. He had a stroke, and later on, my great-great-grandmother married Willis Alfred Tillman in January 13th, 1909. They didn't stay married for long because Willis got sick, and he died around 1911. The interesting thing is that he had gotten his son Claude Thomas to make sure that Emily was provided for after he died. Well, in early May 1915, Emily Macon and Claude Tillman were married in Pecan, Mississippi, which is right around the time that my great-grandmother Willie Mae Tillman was born, and they had a bunch of other kids after that. And Emily Macon died December 25th, 1955 in Mobile, and Claude died sometime in 1959, and I've been to their grave many times up in Mobile. Uh, if anybody out there sees this, and if you have any information that might be of interest, please don't hesitate to contact me. Because I love doing this, and I've been doing this project for next year will be 12 years. So, and I found out all kind of interesting stuff. I did the ancestry DNA. I've connected with some distant cousins of mine, and it's been very fascinating. So, um, please just feel free to send me a message or just leave a comment on here. And I hope to find more Macon descendants or even some of the Tillmans. So hey, it's all good.